We are going to be moving forward now, and with our special guest, and she needs no introduction. However, I would like to share some things about her for those of us or those who may not know. Our keynote speaker, Rashida Tlaib, is a well-known progressive warrior, and in her own words, a mother working for justice for all. Her 2 young sons are at the root of her unwavering passion to help change lives for the better. She is the oldest of 14 children, born and raised in Detroit, and the proud daughter of Palestinian immigrant parents. Rashida made history in 2008 by becoming the first Muslim woman to ever serve in the Michigan legislature. Rashida knows that effective advocacy requires an all-out approach fighting in the community, in the legislature, and in the courts every day against injustice and inequality, so that every single person in this country has a chance to thrive. She is currently the Congresswoman for Michigan's 13th Congressional District, which includes the city of Detroit and many surrounding communities. So without further ado, our special guest, Congresswoman Rashida.
Thank you so much. I apologize that I'm on the porch, but I also am double duty. As you all know, I'm a mother of 2 boys, and there was a close friend of the family's birthday, so I apologize. But assalamu alaikum to all of you sisters. Of course, I come on right when Ain't Afraid started singing. It was hilarious. I loved it. Thank you all so much. I know many of you are involved or listening in are really woke, and you're ready to do something to change the world for better, or at least in some way make our voices heard in a very, again, meaningful way. So I really appreciate all of you. When I first decided to run for office, one of the first things my mom said to me, it's funny because I said, Mama, I'm going to run for state representative. And she's like, what is that? I said, in Arabic, I told her, Muathala Walaya. And she looks at me, and the first thing she says is this mean you're not going to have another baby? And I just looked at her like, you for real? But the good news is, yes, I had another baby, and I was able to obviously continue being a state legislator at the time. But the incredible thing about having a mom, she only went up to 8th grade education, but my mom in so many ways, I've never ever talked to her about what her dreams were, or, I'm the eldest of 14, mashallah. So I never got a chance to really ask her, like, Mom, is this what you wanted to do? Be a homemaker to raise children? Or is this, is there something, I've never had that real conversation with my mother about any of those things. We were raising children together, doing the things that, I was her translator until I was 12. But one of the things I remember after winning in 2008, the Michigan legislature, is my mama called me, wallahi, my yamma calls me and she says, Yamma, you know what? I want to go get my GED. And it's something about me winning my election inspired her and I cried because it was the first time I ever really saw my mother beyond just my mom, just as a woman, as, a child of immigrants, as somebody that was not able to continue on after 8th grade because she was helping support her family. And it just brought me closer to her. And of course, she started going to the weddings. And because my side of the family, my dad, worked at Ford Motor Company, he wasn't one of those, kind of success stories that you kind of hear. I think he's a success story, being a person that was able in 4th grade education, be able to work at Ford Motor Company, support all of us as the best he could. But many of my other side of the family, they were wealthier, they were moving out of the city. And so we used to go to the weddings. And anyways, one of the things that was really interesting is she would go to the weddings, and she would walk through the wedding with her head held up higher because of my success and because I had, made history. And it's so funny because back then, even though I was just a state representative, Muasala Walaya, I would tell her, not, she would say, my daughter's a congresswoman. She's a congresswoman. And it's almost like she predicted or something. But I was always correcting her, and she's like, whatever, same thing, same thing. And so now that I'm a congresswoman, my mom is is hilarious in that she, you know, is telling my best friend the other day, she called and I could tell she was at her girlfriend's house, and all of them must have been around, and she put me on speaker and she's like, Mama, when's the next stimulus check coming? First of all, my mom saying stimulus is a big, I'm like, how do you even know it's called stimulus check? And I was like, Mom, where are you? She's like, oh, I'm at Yasser's house. Everybody's wondering. And she thinks now she has like this in that somehow she's going to know whether or not that happened. But why I say all this to you all is you can be unapologetically yourself, completely yourself, bring in your family, bring in your roots, bringing that humor, all of it with you. Because in so many ways, it keeps us genuine, it keeps us grounded, it keeps us so real to people. I share stories about my mom all the time. You know, one of the things that I love about my young mom is she doesn't even know that she's like being funny. I mean, she's not even mean to be funny, but my mom, you know, after Trump won, she was at one of the grocery stores and this person was like, you know, yelling at her, take it off, take it off. And this is really so she can wear her flip phone. She loves her flip phone. She puts it in her phone. And because I told my mom, are you okay? Everything's okay. And she was telling me the story and I was like, oh my God. And you're like, oh my God, this guy could have attacked my mom. And I said to her, you didn't say anything, Mama, did you? She goes, no, I just, she looked up at the guy and she says, you don't understand. And she tells people this all the time. She goes, you don't understand. Jesus was born in my country. And I'm like, Mom, nobody believes Jesus is Palestinian, even if he's born in Bethlehem. It doesn't matter. I said, what did he do? She goes, oh, he kept yelling at me. I said, well, exactly. But my mom, in so many ways, you know, as she sees hate and racism and everything.
I do want to ask you, and maybe this is on
Go
this,
ahead.
but because you came a long way, right, in your leadership journey. Did you have something at the Muslim Women's Organization is the Sisterhood? Like, was that something that was a part of your journey, or do you feel like you didn't have that, and had you had that, it would have impacted you? Or even like the leadership trainings that you see everywhere now, like what did your opportunity in your sisterhood look like in that, your journey to like where you are now?
I mean, but you all should know, I mean, I didn't have that. There was not a lot of Muslim women organizations or Muslim women-led organizations. Many of them were male-led. Many of them were very tied specifically to our faith, not to advocacy and social justice. And so, or even about leadership building and running for office. I mean, it was very rare. I remember telling my dad, you know, I'm going to run for office. And he's like, oh, no one's going to vote for you. Because there was this sense of like, that just could not be possible, right? But it was honestly growing up in this beautiful Black city in Detroit where advocacy and social justice was like literally in every corner. And so it was a lot of the Black mothers, a lot of the Black-led organizations that brought me in, you know, and it was organic, right? It was immigrant-led, you know, when I was fighting for comprehensive immigration reform. A lot of what you see before you wasn't really fed within our own community. It was fed in the community that raised me, which is predominantly non-Muslim. And in so many ways, it made me a better Muslimah. Alhamdulillah, like I feel so connected to the immigrant rights movement in a way that's different through the, you know, through many of my Latino neighbors' lens. You know, watching families get seen, just a deterioration of our system, but also even as the uprising is happening with Black Lives Matter. I mean, in Detroit, we've been fighting for access to water. We've been fighting, you know, to push back against poverty. And what's happening in our school system is predominantly Black. And so much of the I think support that I got was many of the organizations were not Muslim led, right? They were not literally focused on Muslimin. But I feel in so many ways, all of you on this call, yes, lean on each other, have this network, but also know that you're so much needed in these other spaces, because I know being in those spaces has helped the movement in so many ways. And now when I decided to run Russia, and everybody listening, you should see it. People were like, oh, I know Rashida. Like that, they knew who I was. I was doing Know Your Rights, you know, in the basement of Catholic churches. I was, you know, out there fighting against, you know, what was happening in our school system. They were closing all these schools in Detroit at the time because they were putting as emergency manager in the same emergency manager process that, you know, led to the poison of Flint. Children in Flint and people died. That was the same system that was in Detroit that was closing schools left and right. And so much, again, I didn't have that. I had a handful of, Muslims that were in various nonprofit organizations. But ironically, and this is me being truthful, and I'm not going to, ironically, many of them were not supportive. Many of them, I think, maybe coming from the mother's lens of being fearful that I would lose, being fearful that I'd fail, being fearful, even now, as you all know, I'm, very much raw, not a polished politician. So yes, I curse. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I will, use my bullhorn. I'll be marching in the streets when marching on the same demands we have on the streets. And for a lot of folks, especially a different generation in the Muslim community, women are sometimes said, Rashida, tone it down. What are you doing? So sometimes it's great to be in this space, and I already feel it among you all, is a space that you can be yourself, that you don't have to be constrained to so much of those, I think, barriers that sometimes exist in our own communities. And Russia knows this. I sometimes feel the criticism or the attacks from the various hate groups and everything is so hard, but it's so much more personal when it comes from organizations from our own community. And sometimes I feel like I'm being shushed, or being silenced. But it is so incredibly important to lean on each other. The groups that I leaned on were like Center for Progressive Leaders, which I think doesn't exist now, but it was all of these women, all of these even men, and everybody that was fighting on different issues. I remember leaning on them a lot because I didn't know how to fundraise. I didn't know about who do I go to for endorsement? I didn't know the whole doors and dollars system to running for office. But I sought out mentorship, and was able to, people were able to hold my hand through the process, and we were able to win because I just felt like it was a leadership core group that surrounded themselves with me and helped me succeed. But honestly, in Russia, this is for real. And to all of you, you could be part of a number of groups, but what people feel when you run for office, when you seek leadership, is genuine connection that you have with the people you want to represent, to serve. Because it helps that I went to high school here. It helps that people have known me for so long, and I've been out doing the work before running for office. Because what tends to sometimes happen is we jump in, we try to run for office, and people are like, who is that? Where did this person come from? And they, you have to understand it is so much more deeper than that, and it's so much more grounded in the community. I hope that I answered that question. I know it's long, and I did go closer to the internet.
No, it's beautiful, Rashida. I think just like even how real you are about like your Wi-Fi connection and just like your reaction, I think it humanizes you and shows like how you have to try to balance this life of family and being a woman and a mother and trying to give back to community like the Muslim Women's Organization. So just know that we love and appreciate, and we're holding all of that with us tonight, and we are so grateful for you, and thank you so much, and for taking time away from your family to be with us.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you all, and I'm so sorry, but please know my door is always open to y'all. Listen, some spaces will never be ready for us. Too bad. We're going to get in there. We're going to take a seat. We're going to shake the table, and we're going to demand to be heard and seen. So I really appreciate all of you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you again, Rashida, for joining us. What an inspiring story. I know, like, I'm moved and very inspired to continue in what I'm hoping our organization can continue doing and impacting for the women in our community here.